In a surprising yet widely speculated move leading up to the trade deadline, De'Aaron Fox has been traded from the Sacramento Kings to the San Antonio Spurs, where he will join the towering Victor Wembanyama in a potentially game-changing pairing for the Spurs' future.
Trade is the Spurs get De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin, the Kings get Zach LaVine, Sidi Kosoko, 3 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks, and the Bulls get...
The trade sees Sacramento part with their franchise cornerstone, Fox, who had already indicated he would not re-sign with the Kings in 2026 and requested a move to a team of his choosing. The Spurs were at the top of his list, and now they have secured a player who is firmly within the top 25 to 30 players in the league. In return, Sacramento gets Zach LaVine, Sidi Kosoko, 3 future first-round picks, and 3 second-round picks. Meanwhile, the Chicago Bulls, who have been looking to reshuffle their roster, receive Zach Collins, Tre Jones, Kevin Huerter, and a 2025 first-round pick that was previously traded to San Antonio, making for a series of exchanges that shift the balance of power and rebuilds across these teams. For the San Antonio Spurs, this trade is an absolute win and marks a huge step forward in their rebuilding process. Not only have they added a star player in Fox, but they did so without parting with any of their valuable young assets like Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, or Jeremy Sochan, who are key to the team's future. The Spurs gave up a backup center, a backup point guard, and a series of draft picks, with the majority of those picks being protected or unlikely to convey as high-value first-rounders. This puts San Antonio in a fantastic position moving forward, as they keep their core intact while adding a player who fits seamlessly alongside Wembanyama, potentially creating one of the most exciting duos in the NBA. Fox is known for his speed, scoring ability, and playmaking skills, and his partnership with Wembanyama, who is expected to be a transcendent talent, is a recipe for a dynamic and potent offensive threat. Despite the picks they sent out, the risk is minimal for the Spurs. The 2025 Charlotte pick is unlikely to convey as a first-round pick due to its protections. The 2027 San Antonio pick may land in the 20s, and the 2031 Minnesota pick has the potential to become valuable depending on how the Timberwolves roster evolves. For San Antonio, adding Fox without sacrificing key young players or future flexibility is a 10/10 win and positions them as a serious contender in the West in the future. On the flip side, the Sacramento Kings once again find themselves in a position where their decision-making has raised many eyebrows. Rather than embarking on a full rebuild, which many would have expected after the loss of Fox, the Kings have made the surprising choice to acquire Zach LaVine from the Chicago Bulls. LaVine, who has been having a strong season, is a talented player but has a history of injuries and a large contract that raises concerns about his long-term value. The Kings have been interested in LaVine for years, and this trade finally brought him to Sacramento. But it's hard to see this move as a step forward for the franchise. Zach LaVine isn't a player who will likely elevate the Kings to a contender level in the West, and Sacramento, by bringing him in, seems to be running back a version of the Chicago Bulls from a few years ago with LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and others, rather than making a true splash in the title race. Sacramento's return, while featuring 3 future first-round picks, doesn't offer much excitement. One of those first-round picks is likely to end up as a second-round pick, and the true value of the picks they received is underwhelming compared to what Fox could have commanded in a trade. It feels like the Kings traded away a top-tier point guard for a player who, while talented, doesn't solve their issues or make them true contenders. Instead of fully rebuilding or making a more strategic trade, Sacramento seems to have added LaVine to a team already in limbo. Not bad enough to tank, but certainly not good enough to challenge for a title. For the Chicago Bulls, this trade is a solid step toward resetting their roster and finding future assets. One of the key factors is that they got their 2025 first-round pick back, a significant win as it restores control over their future. With the Bulls potentially tanking the rest of the season, that pick could be quite valuable. Chicago also receives Tre Jones, Zach Collins, and Kevin Huerter, 3 solid players who could be important contributors to their team or possibly be flipped for more assets in the future. These players, combined with their 2025 pick, could either help them get back into the playoff mix or serve as valuable trade assets moving forward. Overall, Chicago might not have made a huge leap with this deal, but they came out with a good value for Zach LaVine, especially considering the contract and injury concerns surrounding him. For the Bulls, this trade represents an opportunity to reset and refocus their efforts on the future. Ultimately, the San Antonio Spurs come out as the big winners in this trade, with Fox and Wembanyama forming a potentially lethal duo for years to come. For Sacramento, however, this move feels like a missed opportunity. Rather than moving forward with an exciting future or fully committing to a rebuild, they've added LaVine to a roster that already feels stuck in the middle of the pack. Sacramento is in a weird position now, not bad enough to tank, but nowhere near good enough to compete for a championship. The trade for Zach LaVine raises questions about their direction, and it's unclear whether they're making a strategic move or just stuck in a cycle of mediocrity. Chicago, while not a huge winner, still did well by acquiring solid assets for LaVine, which could pay off in the future. All in all, San Antonio is the clear victor here, while Sacramento's next steps remain uncertain.